Next comes, so here we have a communal award, which is the most important thing. What happens in this communal award in 1932? So British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald allows separate representation for Indian Dalits. So the separate electorate, which was extended to Muslims, Sikhs, Christians earlier, is now also extended to Dalits. So after which Mahatma Gandhi opposes this, and there was a agreement between Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi under the Pune Act and Pune Pact, sorry. So they agree for reservation of seats rather than separate electorates. So moving further, we have Government of India Act. So this is the most important act when it comes to making of the constitution. So what we see India as a federation as its origin in this act. So it has provision for federal subjects and provincial subjects. Federal subjects and provincial subjects. Diarchy, which was established in the provinces, that is reserve subjects and transfer subjects, were abolished. However, it was introduced at the central level. Then after that, bicameralism, that is upper house and lower house, which was there in the central level, was introduced in the state legislative assemblies of 11 provinces. Today, how many states have bicameralism, that is upper house and lower house? How many states? There are 6 states. What are they? Find it out. Okay. Next comes, so the Council of India for the Secretary of State, which was established in the Act of 1858, Government of India Act, was abolished. So it extended the franchise, the voting power was extended, and approximately 10% of the people got voting rights. And also Federal Public Service Commission was established, and also this RBI, your Reserve Bank of India, also has been established by this act. So, however, major part of this act did not come into existence because the princely states did not agree to join the federation. Later on, the most important act is Indian Independence Act. So what this act does, this act majorly ends the British rule in India. It gives independence to 2 countries, India and Pakistan. So it has a provision for partition of the India into independent dominions. It abolished the office of Viceroy and transferred the power to Governor General of India. Who was the first Governor General after the office of Viceroy was established? So Mountbatten continued to be the Viceroy the Governor General. Later on, our C. Rajgopalachari, he becomes the first Governor General of India after the office of Viceroy was abolished. Later on, so constitutional assemblies were empowered to become the legislative assemblies of both the countries. So that is one. So they can draft the laws till the constitution is established. Later on, Secretary of State office, which was established in 1858, was abolished. Later on, paramountcy of the British paramountcy was abolished, and freedom was granted to the princely states to join either India, Pakistan, or to remain independent. So after this, British monarchy were denied right to veto bills passed by the Indian Parliament. So these are certain important provisions with respect to the Act of 1947, Independence Act. So thereafter we have the interim government headed by Sri Jawaharlal Nehru, which was formed in 1946. Even Muslim League gets into it, headed by Liaquat Ali Khan. and who heads the finance department. Later on, they after the independence, first cabinet is established under Sri Jawaharlal Nehru after the partition. So this is the complete historical background under company rule and crown rule and after your independence. So let's move into the constitution itself, how it was formed. So making of the constitution. So first of all, demand. Where did the demand come from? So it starts in the 1920s. It may be in the by this Nehru report. Before the Nehru report, both the Jawaharlal Nehru and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel asked for a constitutional assembly, and Nehru report was the first try at forming a constitution. So basically, even this communist headed by M.N. Roy also asked for constitutional assembly. So the first inkling of a constitutional assembly was given by, the provision to establish was accepted first by Cripps mission, Cripps proposal, August offer, Cripps proposal by Stafford Cripps in 1942. 1942, Stafford Cripps. So later on, cabinet mission comes in 1946. Cabinet mission comes in 1946. They allow for this formation of cabinet. So here, this is where the demand started. Later on, what is the composition of this Constitution Assembly? See, at that point of time, there were three kinds of constituencies. That is, one is where the Hindus were in majority. Second, where the Muslims were in majority. And the third constituency is the princely state. So all of them had to be represented in the Constitution Assembly. So before independence, even Muslim League had representation in the Constitution Assembly. After independence, they withdrew from the Constitution Assembly. So it had 296 seats totally for the British India and 93 seats for princely states. So the composition was roughly 1 seat was given to 10 lakh people. For 10 lakh people, 1 seat was allotted. So each seat was to be divided into 3 sections in British India, not in princely states, that is Hindus, Muslims and Sikhs, into 3 communities. So it is actually not Hindus in specific, it is Muslims and Sikhs were specific, others were treated as general, who were majoritarily, the major part was Hindus. And later on, each community was having its own representation. So even the princely states were allowed to nominate their candidates to the Constitution Assembly. So after this, how did this Constitution Assembly work? So first of all, before independence, first the objectives resolution would be released by Sri Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in 1946. What is this objective resolution? So it gives a brief framework about how the constitution should be. It's like before building a building, we form a plan. Likewise, before forming the constitution, this objective resolution is a blueprint as to how the constitution of India, free India, should be. So that is the objectives resolution. It was given in 1946 by Jawaharlal Nehru. So what does it say? So it says the resolve of India to remain a sovereign country, not to be ruled by anyone. And it takes into account all the constituencies, that is princely states, Muslim majority provinces and Hindu majority provinces. So what does it say? So it says the power of the representatives would be derived from the whom? People of India. The constitution derives its power from the people of India. And it says justice, equality, liberty would be guaranteed to the people of India. So adequate safeguards would be given for minorities, tribals and other such sections. After this, it says, it basically has a brief idea about what kind of country India should aspire for, being such an ancient country with such rich cultural heritage. What kind of a country should India have? It's like they have aims and aspirations. What should India be? That is what is given in your objectives resolution by Sri Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So after this objective resolution, the few basic framework of the forming of constitution would be changed after forming of the Independence Act, that is 1948. That is, the legislative powers will also be given to the Constitution Assembly, power of making the laws. So what are the functions that was done by this Constitution Assembly? So Constitution Assembly does some function. One is legislative function, other is forming the Constitution of India, and it ratified India's membership at Commonwealth of Nations. It adopted India's national flag. It adopted India's national song, national anthem. It elected the first president of India, Sri Babu Rajendra Prasad. So all these functions were performed by the Constitution. Next comes, so this Constitution Assembly worked through committees. So it's a vast body of 296 members, including the princely states 389. So this vast body could not come together again and again and deliberate over making the constitution. Also, the kind of members that we had, they did not have expertise in framing the constitution, but they were the representatives of Indian people. So what the constitution makers did, they formed various committees. What are the committees? So we have major committees and minor committees. Certain major committees take up major work, the area of major work. That may be Union Powers Committee, or it may be Union Constitution Committee, or it may be Drafting Committee, Advisory Committee, so many other committees. Then we have minor committees. Minor committees means House Committee, Order of Business Committee, Finance and Staff Committee, which deals with minor issues. So most important committee of all this is the Drafting Committee. Who headed it? It was headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, modern Manu, father of Indian Constitution. So who were the other members? The other members were N. Gopal Swami Iyengar, Alladi Krishna Swami Iyer, Dr. K. M. Munshi, Syed Muhammad Sadullah, and we had N. Madhav Rao and T. T. Krishnamachari. So we basically have the composition of Hindus, Muslims, North Indians, South Indians, Dalits, upper caste, lower caste, everyone in the drafting committee as well as in the Constitution Assembly. So moving further, enactment of the Constitution. When was the so we celebrated yesterday, day before yesterday, we celebrated the Republic Day, 26th of January. But that was not the day of enactment. Enactment was done on, so we celebrate from past few years. After 2014, we are celebrating Constitution Day. What is the Indian Constitution Day? It is 26th of November 1949. So on this day, the constitution was finalized and enacted. Few provisions of the constitution were enacted on this day itself, that is 26th November 1949. The provisions were like preamble, articles, certain articles, fundamental rights and everything. However, major part of the constitution was enforced after January 26, 1950. That is the day when the constitution was commenced into operation. So that is when the constitution was enforced in the democratic polity of India, Indian Republic. So after this constitution committee has lot of criticism by various experts. So they say this was not a representative body, only the upper classes were, or the richer sections were having control over this body. Next criticism is this is not a sovereign body, it was enacted by the British. The third criticism is it is, so you know USA constitution was formed in how many days? 4 months. Indian constitution more than 4 years. So it was, all the members were by, the another criticism is it's a Congress constitution. All the members were by Congress. No other major representation. And most of the members were lawyers. So another criticism is domination of Hindus. So these are certain the criticism of the constitution. So we have a Hindi text of constitution which was enacted later on by Amendment Act of 1987. This Hindi text was has the same authority as the English text. So it is having the same authority and enforceability as the English text of the constitution. So what are the salient features of our constitution? So in the constitution, certain facts you can listen to. So we had representation of all the communities, all the parties, all the areas, provinces, and so basically it was a multi-representative body. So what are the salient, next part is what are the salient features of the constitution. So salient feature is Indian constitution is the lengthiest written constitution in the world. It is the lengthiest written constitution and it is drawn from various sources. I am going to tell you the sources later on exactly. So, and it has a feature of blending of rigidity and flexibility. So rigidity as in the basic structure of the constitution, flexibility as in the provision of amendability through 368 or outside it. Later on, it has a significant feature of federal system, being enacting a federal system with unitary bias. We have so in Article 1 of Indian Constitution, what does it say? It says India is a union of states. It doesn't say India is a federation of states. India is a union of states. That is what is said by. But we are a federation with unitary bias. Then we have a parliament. We have enacted a parliamentary form of government. So what is meant by parliamentary form of government? We are going to look into in the upcoming classes. Then we have a synthesis of parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy. That is separation of power, power of checks and balance is there. So we have a provision of integrated and independent judiciary. So we have fundamental rights, DPSPs, fundamental duties, which I am going to cover in further classes in detail. So we have a secular state, which is already there in our preamble. India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. And we have provision for universal adult franchise. That is, what do you mean by universal adult franchise? Every individual who are above the age of, what is the legal age for voting? 18 years. Every individual, it may be poor, rich, Dalit, upper caste, men, women, whoever it is, urban, rural, above 18 years, universal and adult, has the right to exercise their franchise. That is, they have the right to exercise their vote. So earlier, the voting age was 21 years, which was later reduced to 18 years. So this was done by the 61st Constitution Amendment in 1988. Okay. So I earlier said fundamental rights, fundamental duties and directive principles of state policy. What do you mean by that? So these are certain things which form the core of the Constitution. Fundamental rights means these are the basic rights which the Constitution gives the Indian citizens, as well as the certain provisions for also for the foreigners. Fundamental duties, duties for Indians. Directive principles, directs the state to have involve certain principles, use certain principles in its day-to-day administration, as well as enacting of laws. Then we have the provision of single citizenship. So USA has double citizenship, but India has the provision of single citizenship. Next, we have provision for independent bodies. What are the independent bodies? CAG, UPSC, Election Commission these are few of the independent bodies. And we have one of the few democratic constitutions in the world to have emergency provisions within the constitution. Then we have a three-tier government. What is three-tier government? Central government, state government, then local government, that is Panchayat Raj and municipalities, that district and village level. Then comes, we have also provision for cooperative societies. So apart from this, certain criticism about the features of the constitution is also there. What are the criticism? They also say, we can include it in the criticism there itself. Indian constitution is a borrowed constitution. So Ambedkar ji says, Indian constitution was formed after ransacking all the constitutions of the world. So it has borrowed good provisions of all the constitutions. So it is also, we have the provision for, we call this constitution as a carbon copy of 1935 Act. That is copy of 1935 Government of India Act. So this act is also called as un-Indian because it was this constitution, because we are taken it from everywhere and also influenced by the British acts. And un-Gandhian constitution, who says this? This was said by J.C. Kumarappa, who was an ardent follower of Gandhiji, who's also Kengal Hanumanthaya. They say this is a un-Gandhian constitution. Had Gandhi been alive, he would not have approved this constitution. And this constitution is also called as elephantine size. That is very big. 395 plus articles, 12 schedules, 22 parts, so much big size. So, and it also said paradise of lawyers. Only lawyers have done this, no other section of society. Okay, these are the, so how many parts that Indian constitution has? It has got 12 parts. How many articles? 395 plus articles. And we have how many schedules? We have 12 schedules. And as I earlier said, I'm going to tell the sources from where Indian constitution is borrowed from. So the first major source is Government of India Act 1935. from which we have borrowed the federal scheme, judiciary, public service commission and other things. So from British government, British constitution, what have we borrowed? We have borrowed parliamentary form of government, rule of law, that is right to equality, and also citizenship, that is single citizenship, cabinet form of government. Cabinet form of government is also taken from British, the parliament, British constitution, bicameralism. Then from US constitution, what have we borrowed? We have borrowed fundamental rights, independence of judiciary, rigidity in the amendment of the constitution, judicial review and removal of Supreme Court and High Court judges. This is taken from US constitution. This is very important. What provisions is taken from which constitution? They are going to ask a direct question in prelims as well as in various competitive exams. Next comes Irish constitution. Your DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policy, is largely taken from Irish constitution, which in turn takes it from some other constitution of some other country. So we nominate 12 people to Rajya Sabha, right, who have expertise in arts, social service and so many other things. So that is taken from Irish constitution. So Canadian constitution, what have we borrowed? A federation of states with strong center. It is taken from Canadian constitution. And vesting of residuary power, whatever the power is not there with the states and this, in the state list or in the central list, union list, whatever the residuary powers, it is rested in the union central government. That is taken from Canadian constitution. Then Australian constitution, what have we taken? The provision of concurrent list, provision of free trade and commerce, and also joint sitting of the parliament. Joint sitting provision. I am going to discuss it later on. Then Weimar constitution of which country? Germany. Weimar constitution of Germany. Emergency provisions and taken from Weimar constitution. So remember, emergency, German constitution. Emergency provisions are taken from German constitution. Soviet constitution. Soviet constitution is what? Present day Russia. Earlier it was called USSR. So USSR constitution, what is taken? Fundamental duties majorly, and also the ideal of justice in the social, economic and other spheres. French constitution, the idea of a republic, ideals of liberty, equality, liberty and fraternity is taken from French constitution. South African constitution, what have we taken? South African constitution, we have taken the provision of amendment of the constitution and election of members of the Rajya Sabha is taken from South African constitution. Japanese constitution, what have we taken? Procedure established by law. So we follow procedure established by law, whereas US follows due process of law. That these are the sources. Sources have discussed in detail. So next comes the preamble part. So which is the most important part. So for your benefit, I have included the Indian preamble, in picture of Indian preamble. So this is a picture of Indian preamble. What does it say? The text say, we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constitution Assembly, this 26th day of November, I told you earlier. So this is the day of enactment of Constitution. So this is what is called as Constitution Day today. 26th is the enforcement. Do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this beautiful constitution. So beautiful is not mentioned. I just said it because of the out of love for the constitution. So this is the exact pictures which is printed in the Indian constitution. So this West Bengal art school, Nandalal Bose, whoever were there, the artists, Abanindranath Tagore, Nandalal Bose. So these people, these artists were involved in designing the diagram, I mean the figures for preamble as well as the constitution. So this is the exact picture of the preamble. So I have discussed the text. Now let us move. So what are the ingredients? The ingredients of the constitution, it says, first of all, the preamble says, where we derive the power from. We derive it from people of India. Second is the source of authority. Nature of Indian state. What is the nature? Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. That is the nature of Indian state. Then objectives of the constitution. These are the objectives. So later on it says date of enactment. Adoption of the constitution. So this is the date of adoption of the constitution. So next comes, what are the keywords in the constitution? So sovereign. Sovereign means India is not being ruled by any other country. We are on our own. We are our own identity. No other country can establish suzerainty over us. So it's a political concept. Socialist. Socialist means what? It's a economic concept. That is the kind of society we aspire to. That is social equality, economic equality. No division among the public based on caste, class and economic power. So this word socialist was adopted by 42nd Constitutional Amendment, that is, which is also called as the mini constitution. So secular, this word was also adopted by 42nd Constitutional Amendment, which is also called as the mini constitution, as said earlier. Secular means what? The state does not endorse any particular religion, whereas on the other hand, state gives equal support to all the religions. Whatever religions are there, the government. State means what? State means Indian state. It's a political concept. So it includes the government, it includes the judiciary, it includes the various organs of the government, independent bodies. It also includes the PSUs. So we are going to discuss the meaning of state under Article 12 when we come to fundamental rights. Okay. The next thing is democracy, democratic. Democracy means what? Power by the people, of the people and for the people. That is what is meant by democracy. So we have direct democracy and indirect democracy. What kind of democracy are we? Are we direct or indirect? So we are following representative democracy, that is indirect democracy. We elect our representatives who form laws and exercise power on our behalf. So direct democracy is practiced in Switzerland. Now we have this Haryana government enacting the provision of direct democracy, that is recalling the elected representatives, which is a good sign and shows evolution of Indian polity, Indian democracy. Next, republic. What do you mean by republic? Republic means we celebrated republic recently, but 90% of the Indians doesn't know the meaning of republic. So republic means the power of the country is lays in the hands of the people, and republic means it is the country is not headed by any crown, no hereditary access to throne, whereas we elect our president. So we are headed by a president who is elected by the people of India. That is what meant by republic. Another meaning is all the public offices are open to everyone. That is also one of the meanings of being called as a republic. So next comes the concept of justice. Under justice we have economic, social and political justice. So the economic justice means establishing equality, political justice means giving equal political opportunity, social justice means establishing equal treatment for giving equal treatment for all citizens. So liberty means what? Liberty means freedom. Individual is allowed to do whatever he or she wants to do, subject to certain conditions. There are certain conditions which you have to satisfy to exercise your liberty. So liberty is liberty of thought and speech and expression. So it is being taken from French Revolution, the idea. So next comes the idea of equality. Equality before we do see it in fundamental rights, that is from article 14 to 18 and under various provisions. Every individual is equal no matter what. So government has to treat everyone equally, those who are equally situated. However, we have evolved into a concept of equity, that is those who are not equally situated, that is poor and others, would be treated differently so as to establish equity, which is the real form of equality, right? So next comes the idea of fraternity. Fraternity means, you just remember one word, brotherhood. Brotherhood among all the Indians is called as the idea of fraternity. Next comes the idea, what is the significance of this preamble? So most of them said this preamble is just an idea of aims and aspirations. There is no requirement of adding this preamble. It is also not justiciable. You cannot claim your rights based on preamble. Also, many members of the Constitution Assembly were against including this preamble. However, some members said it acts as an identity card of the Constitution. Some members said it acts as a content part of the Constitution and various other things. Whereas later on came the question of status of the preamble. What is the status of this preamble? Whether it is a part of Constitution or it is not a part of Constitution. So in Berubari Union case, the Supreme Court held that preamble is not a part of Constitution. However, in the famous Keshwananda Bharati case, that is 1973, 24th April, which happens to be whose birthday? Sachin Tendulkar's birthday. On that day, so Keshwananda Bharati ji, who was a seer in Kerala, passed away recently in 2020. So you can expect a question this year on Sri Keshwananda Bharati case. So 1973 case, what did the Supreme Court say? Preamble is a part of Constitution, overruling its earlier ruling in Berubari Union case. So coming to amendability, that is whether preamble can be amended. So starting in Berubari Union, they said it can't be amended. Later on they said in Keshwananda Bharati it can be amended. However, now it stands that it can be amended. There was already an amendment done by adding the idea of socialist and secular in, by which amendment? 42nd Amendment.